My niece is not only beautiful and smart, she's also one of the most tenacious advocates you want on your side. She has years of experience. She does, strangulation is your kind of training
Forte.
specialty, yeah. So, but she's not gonna talk too much. I'm gonna do all the talking, pretty much. What I want you to do is relax, take a deep breath. You're gonna have an experiential learning process without moving. When, I'm a storyteller. That's what I do. That's, I've done this for 15, almost 20 years now. And I tell this same story. I've done it, told this story to a couple thousand people. So it's not an easy story. It's not a fun story. But it is a story that tells you a lot about, because in your career, no matter what career you're in, as long as you're in the United States, Canada, Mexico, South America, you will be addressing and working with indigenous or American Indian people. And this story is a common one. What happened here is not unusual. And in the end, I'll tie it all together. I compressed a generally 4-hour presentation into about 2 hours. So I'm gonna go fast. Keep up with me. You know, in Vietnam, they had the guys that were wounded, they called them walking wounded. Well, they had to be left behind. So if you don't ask your question, when it comes up, we're probably not gonna be able to answer it. So be brave. Be brave. Ask a question if you think of it. My name's Chris Partida. I work with the Lake County Department of Behavioral Health. I coordinate efforts at the Circle of Native Minds Wellness Center. We are the first, we are the only county-funded and staffed Native Wellness Center, not only in the state of California, but in the entire United States. Mm-hmm. Oh, believe me, it just wasn't somebody's idea. It was a community-driven effort over many years. And then we finally got it, and they said, hey, Chris, come and run it. Okay, and that's where I work, 263-4880. You ever have a question or want to participate in any of our events, you're more than welcome to come. Friday nights are fun night. We do coloring sessions. You just come and color. That's all we ask. Just come and color, have fun. And so that's what I do. That's my profession. I do fun things out in the community. And again, you know Michelle, she works with the Intertribal Council of California. Intertribal Council of California is composed of now 77 tribes in the state of California. It's the largest intertribal organization in the nation. It's one of the oldest nonprofits in existence in California. Intertribal Council was responsible for the creation of the tribal health clinics you see in California, Lake County Tribal Health. The original and founding board member of the Intertribal Council is a guy named Nelson Hopper. Anybody hear that name before? Okay. Nelson Hopper is a local Native man. He's he's a World War II decorated veteran, both a Bronze Star and a Silver Cross. I'm very proud, that's my uncle. And I'll connect him later, if you pay attention. Now, Uncle Nelson was responsible as a founding board member of the Intertribal Council of California. He's also the founding board member for an organization called the California Rural Indian Health Board. He was also the original signing director for an organization called the California Indian Manpower Consortium. These three organizations, all founded in California, are some of the organizations that were used as models nationally for not just American Indian Services, but for all community services, community-based services. They're the first organization to truly integrate what is now termed as collaboration. Collaboration in the real world means you give me some money, I give you some money. That's collaboration. But in tribal communities, we had to come together just to get there. So anyway, that's kind of the history of the Intertribal Council. You got my history a little bit, and I'll tell you more as we move along. I was supposed to do a cultural competency training. Easy. There are 4 cultural values shared by all tribal nations in the United States and Canada. Do I need to slow down?
I'm sorry for my interruption, Chris.
Mhm.
If I could ask you one thing, we're doing this for televised,
Oh,
and so your
moving too much.
is a little bit much. If you
Okay.
could just stay within that one table, the 2 tables that are right in front of you there,
Okay,
because right now we're crossing about 30 feet, and that's,
Okay.
it's gonna look very active on camera.
I was thinking I was looking like Bugs Bunny. Okay. All right, so we're talking about cultural values. There are 4 cultural values in every tribal community. It doesn't matter where you come from. You come from a tribal culture. Germans, the Teutons, I guess, what is it? If you're from France, there's the Huguenots. If you're from England, there are, what is it, Anglos, Saxons. These are all names of tribal people from those places. So you come from a tribal culture already. So you understand through your history, through your traditions in your family, belonging, mastery, interdependence, and generosity. Those are cultural values. Cultural values are learned. You can't know that you belong without learning it. You don't know what mastery is or what mastery of a subject is unless you learn it. And interdependence is a far-flung way of expressing your culture, as is generosity. We know this because they did this study in, I think it was in 1980, 85, where they brought together all these experts from all over the country. They were Native American PhDs and real high muckety-muck people. And they talked about what are cultural values that are shared in American Indian culture. Those are the 4. Now that's in a healthy culture, right? Not all tribes, not all tribal communities are healthy today. We have some of the highest incidents of abuse, both sexual, violence, physical.
Suicides.
If you look at any socioeconomic detail of a community, American Indians either are at the top or they're at the bottom. That's not a reflection of culture. That is a presentation of socioeconomic conditions that exist in that community. Recently, the World Health Council said that social and physical isolation is a form of torture. The World Health Council said that physical and social isolation are forms of torture.
Say that one more.
Conveniently, I did this map. Now, Big Valley is more over here in modern times, Lakeport's here. But I can go to any place in the state of California, any place. You put Chris down any spot. You put him in downtown Ukiah, and he can find a reservation in a 45-minute walk from downtown. Why is that? Anybody want to make a wild guess? Physical isolation. There's a purpose in that. They put tribal people far enough away from town that they didn't have to put up with them at night. But they put them close enough that they could provide labor. Okay, so if you go anywhere in California, say you're in Eureka, Arcata, draw a little 45-minute loop around walking distance, you're going to hit a tribal community. Isn't that interesting? It's a policy. It's a policy. It's a state policy. State policy. In order for the state of California to become a member of the United States, they had to agree to certain conditions and terms. One of those conditions and terms was their responsibility to address tribal nations. The first 4 acts of California state government were policy and regulation in regard to how they treat tribal communities in California. It's in your history. It says it right there. Well, it doesn't, oh, guess what? It doesn't say it in your history books. Right?
Got left out accidentally.
It's just something that you need to be aware of. That policy for American Indians. See, we have African American people, we have Asian American people, we have Hispanic American people. Guess what? I'm half Mexican. I could walk down the street and say I'm Hispanic. Right? But if I say I'm American Indian, I'm the only one out of all those people that have to prove it. Why is that? Why is that? Why is that? Come on, come on, come on. How many constitutional lawyers do we have in here? It's in the preamble to the Constitution, giving Congress the right to regulate commerce with American Indian tribes. That comes before even your articles and your, what do they call those rights? The Bill of Rights? The idea of American government says, even before you have a right as a U.S. citizen, what? You got to deal with the Indians. And they gave Congress that authority. I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong, but you have to remember the U.S. Constitution. What's the biggest one? What's the biggest right for you personally? Is it speech? Speech? Okay. What else? Anybody else?
Bear arms.
Bear arms. Bear arms. I purposely misspelled that. What's another right?
Everybody's treated equal.
What?
Equality.
No, 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 no. In the Bill of Rights.
To be silent.
Religion,
Yeah.
Anything else? Anything else that's important to you as an American citizen walking down the street?
Pursuit of happiness, right?
Okay. I'm gonna put that over here.
To a fair trial.
Rights for me, so,
These core rights, where did they come from? What government created these before the United States did?
France. England.
Cherokee.
Britain.
The Iroquois Confederacy. They had a written document that guaranteed the right to free speech, the right to bear arms. Most importantly, the freedom of religion. In England, in pre-Columbian times, who regulated the church?
the queen.
The King of England. Yeah, remember when what's his name became Anglican because he couldn't divorce what's her name? Okay. What about this one, the right to bear arms? Where in the world, prior to the United States government enacting it, did anyone have the right to to carry a weapon? Nowhere. That's why in China, the people learned kung fu because all the weapons were held by their government. That's why they had to learn how to fight with sticks because they couldn't get weapons. But most important is the freedom of religion. As a group in here, we can all disagree, right, about religion. There's Muslims and Christians, all kind of people. The most important aspect of the freedom of religion, especially when it comes to the United States, for the first time in the history of man, a government that was instituted found the capacity to allow people to pray, to do their ceremony in freedom. That's something. See, we all think about Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson and George Washington. Hell, they didn't even know what this stuff was when they were kids. They learned it from the Iroquois Confederacy. The pursuit of happiness in the Iroquois Confederacy was an overarching right. The right to a fair trial by your peers, for the first time in the history of man, happened with the Iroquois Confederacy. In fact, the idea of multiple nations joining together is the Iroquois Confederacy. Dang, see? Did anybody know that before they came in here? Oh, class is gone. Let's go. Okay. But it's important for you to understand the basics of what tribal communities have given in the development of the United States as a nation. More importantly, what it's given to the world. Because we got people in Ukraine killing each other right now over these same things. We have people in Africa killing each other because they're not allowed these basic human rights. Just a thought. Just something for you to think about. When we talk about culture, we have to attach this to this. This is the value. This is kind of like, anybody do Government 101 yet? This is the goal. This is the process to get there. A lot of people can't make that connection, and it's okay. It takes years of kind of looking at it, and I'm a cultural specialist. I've been doing this work for 20 years, and I'm still learning stuff. And now that's just about your personal history, who you are, and kind of, did anybody kind of think, oh, wait a minute, I'm German? What's my tribe? Did anybody think that at all? What'd you come up with?
Saxon.
Saxon?
Yeah, same thing.
Saxon? No? When we talk about history, see this HX? Anybody in medical stuff? HX means history. DX means diagnosis. And then
TX treatment.
TX is treatment. And then they got one for prescriptions. I forgot.
RX.
RX, yeah, see? We're smart. See, as a group, we can figure out anything. But when we start to learn about, as you learn about my history, I'm hoping it sparks an interest in your own history. What tribe am I from? Because when you start to think about what tribe you're from, you're going to be more interested in what your personal history is, what your family history is. It's important because you got to pass that on to your kids. My niece isn't sitting here by accident. She comes from a healing family that goes back 8 generations now. She's the 8th generation of people who work in a community to heal it. Think about that. It's not like she woke up one day and said, oh, I want to help people that are getting beat up all the time. We come from certain kinds of families, even in your own community. You don't just come from somebody. You came from people who inspired you to do different things based on your culture. That's why you're sitting here in a college classroom. You're unique. Think back, when you graduated from high school, how many kids went to college? You guys are weird eggs already. Welcome. So anyway, I better get going because I'm going to tell you some other stuff. Let's see, we talked about culture and government policy. We talk about social and physical. See, when I was walking back up, I was trying to figure out, oh, what am I going to talk about? So, anyway.
Chris, if you want, we have class till 6, and if we wanted to put a 15-minute break in, you could go till 6.
We will break.
Yeah, we're kind of figuring that as we roll.
Okay, but you just tell your story, we're here.
Okay. When, I just want to make sure I get my point.
Yeah, I mean, tell your
And then the
presentation.
story.
Your head is all part of it, your
Mhm.
presentation is what I
When,
mean.
I just wanted to touch on fear a little bit. Because if you don't know about something, you're gonna have fear. We learn that, that's a cultural thing. Fear is culture. There are certain things you're gonna be afraid of, like something that's hot, right? Everybody, oh, okay, I'm not gonna touch that again. You even learn that, right? Okay. That's about fear. But it's also about your culture. How you were raised determines what your fear is. What did I used to be scared of? Dark. I used to hate to go out. My dad would make me go change water out in the fields, right? And I'd have to drive my old pickup out there, and I'd be driving along, everything's dark. Oh, I'd be scared. I would be so scared. But since nothing happened, I kind of lost the fear. Well, that's kind of how you have to do with culture. You have to look at people that you haven't looked at before in a way that's not regulated by what you know. In Eastern traditions, they call that mindfulness. To be able to see the thing without judging it. See the thing without fixing it. Seeing the thing for what it is. Pretty simple, right? We don't do that. We can't do that. It's hard for us to do that. Because we've learned all these things about people, places, and things. How many people here love cats? How many people in here don't like cats? See? That's the easiest way I can tell you to understand it. Because what you see is not what the next person sees, especially in relation to culture. Culture drives the education you receive. Culture drives the kind of work you will do in the future. It's all about culture. So that's just my little thing about fear. Let it go. Don't be scared. Now, I'm going to tell you a story in a little bit. How much time I got?
Before the half hour, 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. Okay, we've got about 10 more minutes, and then we're going to start telling the story. In tribal cultures, the way a lot of learning happened wasn't about just doing something, like fixing a bow and then carving an arrow and then learning how to shoot it and that kind of thing, and then learning how to hunt and then learning how to skin. It wasn't always like that. And in fact, a guy like me, I'm like years old, and my job, because I'd been through the wars.
They didn't hear how
been
old you were,
through-
Uncle.
Oh, that's okay. We'll just go on. Wait a minute, I thought you was helping me?
I know.
So one of the ways, a cultural way of learning, like we call it an experiential process, right? How many different ways are there of learning? Anybody? Name them. That'd be easier if we name them.
You see, you want A.
Aren't you guys in like child development? Am I in the wrong classroom? No, I'm sorry.
Visual,
Visual?
kinesthetic,
Auditorial.
auditorial, yeah.
Auditory, you said something else too.
Kinesthetic.
Kinesthetic.
And then tactile. And then there are multiple other methods. I mean, these guys have been studying this, so that you,
Well, I've only heard
like, wow,
4.
100.
They've been studying all that you're telling me. And
Tactile.
tactile, okay, all right. One of the cultural methods of teaching is, they call it experiential. And I'll throw it over here too. Everybody's familiar with that? Oh, good. I'm really glad to hear that a developmental class knows about experiential learning. Now, in tribal communities, they had an additional kind of learning. It's called, in English, it's emotion and feeling. It's very hard for people to attach emotions and feelings to the idea of learning. But today, when I tell you the story, you're going to carry it with you for many, many years. Because it's an emotional story. It's about your feelings, not mine. Well, mine too. And that's what we're going to do. That's why this is kind of new for everybody in the room. I'm a storyteller. You're a story listener. That a deal? Everybody's okay with that? Okay. All right. Now let's lay out the rules. When, okay, we got that. Oh, we got this done. We kind of touched on this, but we're gonna touch on this throughout the story. And we're gonna focus a lot of time and attention on age groups. Just so you know. You guys got all the notes you need off of here? Oh, you're not taking notes, huh? Okay. All right, I'm not insulted. I know something you don't know.
It's about time, Uncle.
Okay. Good. We're about timed in. What was I gonna? When I want you to, as I tell my story, I don't want you to think about so much about what I'm saying, but about what you're feeling. Okay? Jot down how you feel right now. I feel good. I feel, what is it when you're, I feel flat. Yeah, that's okay. I'm very happy.
I
Yeah.
don't know how I feel.
And don't put, I don't know. And as we go along, I want you to say, you know, you'll hear a lot of information, lots of information. And as I go through information, I want you to jot down what piece of information I put out was interesting to you or affected you, okay? Can you do that? I'm gonna check. You guys in the back, I'm gonna check. Okay, just so you know, that wasn't too loud. Now see, I did this amoeba for you biology people. It's also known as a map of Clear Lake. There are seven federally recognized tribes in Lake County. There's Koi Nation, just right down here. Elam Indian Colony, over by Clear Lake Oaks. That's Mount Kanatai and Borax Lake. Kelsey Creek, Big Valley, Tribal Nation. Scotts Valley, Tribal Nation. Upper Lake, which is also known as Tolel, and Robinson Rancheria. What is Robinson Rancheria? Your best bet on the lake.
What was I missing? And we're Habana, Paul.
And yeah, and I'm from Big Valley. I'm a Pomo from Big Valley. The interesting part of me being from Big Valley is I'm a descendant of a guy named Fred Hogan. Now, Fred Hogan, very special man in the history of all the Pomos. In fact, I'm not so unique. Chances are, if you're a Pomo from Lake County, from Big Valley, Elam, Scotts Valley, chances are you somehow related to him. It's not like he had 1,000 kids, it's just that there were so few left at the turn of the century in 1900 that that's how the family sprung up. So we'll talk more about Fred. Nice guy. He has baskets in the Smithsonian Institution. He has baskets at the University of Pennsylvania Museum, the Hay Museum in New York, several other places. Very famous. Him and his wife did these beautiful baskets along with other Indian people just to survive, just to find food. They didn't do them because they were like having a good time. They did them out of desperation. The idea that they had to eat. So when you go see these baskets that are on display, that baskets are they're being traded, those are acts of desperation for people to survive. As beautiful as they are, as indicative of the work that went into them, you have to know that every one of those baskets were put together so families could feed their children. So families here in Lake County could survive. So now, with no further ado, what happened in 1492? Don't say discovered. Say anything else but discovered.
We weren't lost.
That was the day Christopher Columbus ran into an island in the Caribbean. It's a very important. What was the? Anybody know? Give it kind of a round ballpark figure of what they think the population in Europe was at the time.
98.
98 what? Okay. These are all guesses. You can't be right, you can't be wrong. But I can say right now, you're very wrong.
Figure that.
No, thank you for guessing.
2,000? I mean, I'm sorry, 2 million?
Okay. Somebody else?
I'll go with 11,000.
11,000? Okay. How about in the United States? How many?
Pre-Columbian.
In 1492, he's stepping up the boat and he says, how many people live here?
I'm gonna say 50,000.
50,000? Okay.
25,000.
36.
36,000?
Yeah.
I think a million.
500,000.
I think a million.
You have no idea. Well, that's good because most of us don't.
So I got it right.
That's in Europe. That's all of Europe. In the North American continent,
Wow.
Oh, wow. Way off.
These are in millions.
well, what's incongruent about that figure in your own mind? Other than being way off.
It's a staggering amount of loss. It's a 1,000% loss. Huge difference.
Isn't that interesting? Because most people have the impression, oh, there weren't very many Indians running around North America, right? They estimate in pre-Columbian times that on the shores of Clear Lake, they estimated between 12 and 15,000 people living on the shores of Clear Lake. What was the census for 1960? Anybody know for Lake County? 17,000.
Oh,
Aren't you? You just look like you're in shock. Well, that's the fun of studying history. It's the fun of studying history. Just these amazing things, and you think, wow, how could that be? Gee, really? Well, you guy must be crazy. In California, in pre-Columbian times, they estimate the population anywhere from 350,000 to 750,000. Okay? In 1900, they did a census. How many Indians do you think were left in California in 1900? Wild guess?
13,000.
Anybody else?
in California,
Yeah.
200,000?
There was another one. I heard another one.
20,000?
20,000, okay. Anybody else want to make a wild guess? It's okay.
50,000.
50,000, okay.
15,000.
5,000?
5,000.
Close your eyes. $17,000. They know this because they did a census. So something happened. Something happened from, let's see, 1492 to 1892. Let's just do it for funds. 0, 0, 4. So in 400 years, they went from, let's say, 350,000 to 17,000. The vast majority of that loss, they know, is in the time period 1830 to 1900 is the vast majority of loss in California for American Indians. Now, you guys have been raised in a Western military tradition. I accuse you. What's the point of taking a country over? You guys got it all? Got all your gases and everything? Okay. What is it? It's still today. It still happens today. It's not new.
To take land.
Take land. Yeah.
Greed.
Greed.
Power.
Mhm.
Gold.
Resources.
Ooh, oh my God, I did. Oh, geez, what was that on there?
Biology.
Oh, geez, you guys take good notes. Okay. When America goes to war, they do two things. They focus their attention on this is probably a little before your time. Has anybody done any historical research around the Pol Pot regime? Khmer Rouge? They killed about 5 million people, or no, excuse me, about 5 million people over a 2-year period. The vast majority of those people were doctors, lawyers, and teachers. If you were a doctor, you were dead. So was your family. If you were a lawyer, and I totally agree, but that's what happened to them too. And that's what happened to teachers. It's also what happened to business leaders. That's not new. That's not new. The Greeks and the Romans did the same thing. This isn't new. This isn't new in the history of human development. But that's what happened here too. That's what happened here too. It's not new. Oh, did you guys get that? Don't record that anywhere. Somebody will come and get you in the night. But don't have fear. So I'm telling you these kind of crazy things, right? Some of you are kind of sitting there. Did anybody write any feelings down about what you just heard or what was said? Shock? Good, good. Anybody else?
Amazed,
Amazed?
very interesting.
Interesting.
I wrote down curious. Curious.
Okay, good.
Intrigued. Sad.
Sad? Okay.
Informed.
You guys write anything down? Surprised. Good. These are all what? Emotions. Good, good. See, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So in 1492, comes and this thing starts happening. Other people come. In South America, guys come looking for gold. In North America, they come looking for land. They're being pushed out of Europe. Who was the first people that came here in North America? How'd they get here?
Boat.
The boat? What was the name of the boat? Anybody remember the name of the boat?
Mayflower.
Mayflower. Where'd they come from?
England.
Why'd they leave England?
Because of the religious views.
Famine?
Okay. Yeah. They were booted out because,
Religious views.
and,
Famine.
well, guess what? In 1492, there weren't no tomatoes in Europe. There weren't no peanuts. There wasn't any corn. People in Europe in pre-Columbian times survived on a lot of roots. Lots and lots of roots. They'd eat meat once in a while, maybe once a month. Roadkill, who knows? You know, you could lose your life in pre-Columbian England for shooting a deer. Yeah. Not here. You could shoot the hell out of deer and nobody's gonna bother you. See, wouldn't this be a nice place? Guy comes over to America and he says, man, all I had to do was step off the boat and I got me a deer my first day there. People back in England didn't even believe him. How could that be? Deer don't hunt him. Now you go out. Anybody live in Hidden Valley? Man, them deer are like dogs out there. They're just stealing everything. Anyway, that's how America was. It had all this abundance. We had corn, squash, beans. Hell, you could walk down the street and pick stuff up and eat. Isn't that interesting? Interesting. So it was a very attractive place. So all these people started coming. They call them settlers. See, in North America, they were called settlers. What were they called in South America?
Pioneers.
Conquistadores. I was watching on TV the other night. I do that every once in a while. They were talking about these conquistadors who came looking for El Dorado. If you ever want to do a fun vacation, go to Colombia and ask to see the gold room. They have these treasures that are hundreds and some of them are thousands of years old of gold objects that were saved from being melted down by the conquistadores. Some of the greatest treasures in the world are in that gold room. So go to Colombia, see it for yourself. I plan to. But the reason I'm telling you that is there were two different kinds of ways of people wanting to be here. One mountain in South America, Montana de Oro, is in Colombia. They started mining there in the late 1500s. They still mine today, that same stinking mountain. They used to send ships filled with gold and silver from the Americas back to Spain. And they used to send them in groups of 3. All the gold in Europe prior to the 1500s was equal in one of those trips. Like when you go to see the Vatican and places like that, all the gold you see comes from North America, and more than likely from Montana de Oro. Isn't that interesting? Don't you guys find that interesting? It just fascinates the hell out of me. So we had these 2 people doing 2 different things, right? They're coming for freedom and land, and the other ones are coming for gold. Here in North America, let's see, now this is a good one. Believe it or not, that's California. And go around Texas, Florida, and up that way, and come back across. Believe it or not, I took a class in cartography. You ever want to do an interesting thing? Take a class in cartography. It's called, anybody know what that is?
Map. Maps.
Good, good. Obviously, I didn't do as well as some. But see, what happened was, I think it was, what year did they get the pilgrims over here? 16 something? 1609, they landed on Plymouth Rock, right?
Yeah.
When was San Francisco Bay discovered? Anybody know?
1760? Or something 60, maybe, I think. I was right?
Pretty close. Close enough for me, close enough for the class. Just keep going, you're doing good. So in tribal communities, it just didn't happen, and they said, oh, look, some people landed over there. Because the impression people have today is that when these people got to Plymouth Rock, it was the whole United States. They knew everything. Everything was done. Well, it's not true. There's a little band of people that landed here. But guess what? They brought with them what?
Disease.
Diseases. What else? Bad food.
Bugs, probably.
And they brought military. So what happened was, see, it just didn't happen there. Ooh, where are we? Let's make the amoeba again. There's Clear Lake. Okay? But this, see, the reason I'm telling you this is because I'm a storyteller. And back in the old days, guy my age, that was my job. I was done hunting, I was done fishing, I was done making baskets. I was just out and about, I was in retirement. We could do that. And my job was, I'd go over to Calusa. Anybody know where Calusa is? Okay, good, good, good. You know, I'd walk over there, talk with them, chat, find out the news. I'd maybe go over to the Sierra Nevada someplace. Spend time out on the road. Then I'd come back, and you know these roundhouses we have here. Well, during the winter time, I'd be back just in time for winter to walk into the roundhouse and say, hey, I got some stories. I got some stories to tell you. And I'd tell stories. Some of them were crazy. I'd tell the story about, hey, these people came. They were fully clothed in these crazy clothes, like their shoes. You know, prior to coming to America, people wore the same shoe. They didn't make shoes in different sizes in Europe. Yeah, really? Oh, I mean, yeah, people were just going into shock. Wait a minute, shoes? And they didn't have, what do they call it, heels?
I can only take so much.
It's suffering, yeah. It's suffering in Europe. I'm not kidding you. And so they didn't have like real shoes. Where'd they get the idea for different shoe sizes? Moccasins. Yeah. Even cowboy boots in up to the middle of the 18th century were all the same size. And there was no left foot, right foot. You got a boot. So that, I mean, that's just crazy. Chris is talking crazy. Chris is talking crazy. That they had to come to America to figure out that you could cut a pattern to fit your foot. And make, oh, anyway, I digress. So what was happening is I'd go over there and I'd hear that story and I'd bring it back. And they'd say, gee, those people are crazy. I'd go back next year and come back with another story. Well, they started shooting. They gave us blankets, and those blankets made us sick. We didn't actually see them, because I'm here, and they're there, right? But all these stories, see, it isn't like we were separated by state boundaries. The boundaries that are created in America are created by this mind. There's no boundaries. State boundaries, there's no, how do you do that? Anyway, so all these stories, like, they'd tell the story from here, it'd go to here, then to here, then to here, then to here, then to here. But the problem was in the editing, right? I couldn't be a storyteller. I couldn't come and talk to you if I lied. Why is that?
Stories would be wrong.
People depended on stories. Life and death. So it's important. My job, as casual as it is, very important. So for, now remember, 1760 is when they didn't actually know San Francisco Bay was even there until 1760. And the guy was going along in the boat, and he looks over to the right, and he says, hey, there's a bay there. So he whips it around, and he goes in there, he throws off some people, and that's how they discovered San Francisco Bay. For a couple of hundred, for about 100 years, they passed back and forth through there. They were looking for the route to India. And they kept passing by there, they never saw it because of
Fog.
Isn't that amazing? Amazing. How did they find their place? So anyway, so now it's getting to be like 1650. And we're starting to see the presence expanding. 1700. Then they have the revolution. What year is this? 1776. We're about to hear. What are the stories that are coming now? What else they do? Killed and scalped, poisoned.
Rape. Dismembering. Pedophilia.
Genocide.
There's all kinds of bad things that are happening back here. But it isn't like nobody knows about it. It's being told. People are coming back and they're saying, you know, these guys fight, but they kill everybody. They don't just fight men. They kill children. They kill babies. In as late as 1857, 1860, 1865, in California, you could get $50, the equivalent of a coyote pelt, for the ear of a baby. State law. State law. Isn't that disgusting? Ew, God damn, who does that? It's in our history. Those kinds of things are real. And see how important this 1760 is becoming? Russian fur traders didn't really get down here until about 1820. Doggone.
I'll go see that, so it looks better.
Okay. Wore them out. Okay. Wore this one out too, I didn't try. So, do you kind of get what I'm telling you about these stories coming and they're starting to, what are you thinking? What would be developing in your mind if you were for a couple hundred years hearing these stories? Scared to death.
Terrified.
Terrified.
Mad. Disgusted.
Yeah. I'll just put terror for now. So about 1849, something happens in California. What happened in California in 1849?
Gold rush? Gold rush?
Okay, you guys got all my scribbling here? I know it's really important. What time is this?
It's 4.
I'm gonna give you a break at 5.
Okay.
And then you're gonna go back at it. Kind of getting, what are some emotions that are coming up right now?
Sickened.
Sickened,
Disgusted.
disgusted,
Angry.
angry,
Sorrow.
sorrow. It's really tough because most people don't understand that about American history. I'm not saying it's good, bad, or indifferent. Why? Because it happened. I can't change it. No one in this room can change what happened. And guess what? What did I say earlier? It happened to all of us. Everybody in here. It happened to your family. It happened. Okay. So, this guy falls over and hits his head and knocks his teeth out with a chunk of gold. However it happened, it happened. Prior to 1849, how many people lived in California? Non-tribal people. How many people lived in San Francisco in 1849?
500?
We'll go do the guessing game again. Come on. Another wild guess?
15,000.
I want to say like 7,500.
10,000.
We're just wearing them out. Actually, there were about 2,500. That's all right. I'm just scribbling out of nervousness, not out of need. And in the whole state, there were maybe less than 15,000 non-tribal people. In Lake County, you had people like Kelsey. What the hell?
Try the blue one. There. You needed color.
Yeah, I just needed to change color.
It's a heavenly color.
These people weren't even in Lake County prior to 1830. The Andersons, Anderson Marsh, Stone and Kelsey, Kelseyville. Stone was his partner. Noble, anybody here Noble Real Estate?
Yeah.
Noble Real Estate today is the largest individual landowner in Lake County. They own more than PG&E. They own more than the county. Right, wrong, or indifferent, that's just a fact. And then there's the Pluths. I love that name, Pluth. It just sounds like such a nice thing. Anyway, those are some early settlers in Lake County. Now, let me brag about Lake County for a while. See, I wrote geology and I wrote biology. Lake County is a really unique place on earth. Where you live today is one of the most unique environments in the entire world. In pre-Columbian times, this place was one of the most diverse biological environments anywhere on Earth. Right here. Not Sacramento, not Brazil, not the Yucatan. Here. By biomass, the thing with most life on it is a 100-foot square of redwood tree forest. Why? Because redwood trees are huge. But anyway, I digress. I was talking about geology, huh? And here I'm on biology. Anyway, so I worked at a gold mine. Where's that gold mine? Homestake. Anybody got relatives that worked up there? Kinda? Okay. Oh, I loved it up there. Easy money. Operating heavy equipment. Anyway, but the reason it was there is because the Homestake mine mined out one of the richest per ton ore bodies of gold in the entire world. They did 2.2 million ounces in less than 15 years. That has yet to be equaled in terms of concentrated ore. Just think, here in Little Lake County. The lake is one of the oldest lakes in the world. Oh, wait a minute, it's got to be in South America or Asia or, no. One of the oldest lakes in the world is right down there. You know why it's one of the oldest lakes in the world?
It's natural.
Why?
Why? Good. Quit asking and start telling, damn it. The reason, anybody go on Highway 20 past Clear Lake Oaks?
Yeah.
Next time you go, you're driving along, you go by the red and white, you go by that furniture store, then you start rounding the corner, and there's a little turnout. You can get into that turnout, stop, and look at the mountain. What is it? Anybody stop and look? No, that's okay, that's okay. First time you ever heard this kind of stuff. If you stop and look at the red layers, those are old lake bottom.
Old what?
Lake bottom. It's layers of it, layers and layers and layers of it. But because of that subsidence, you can write that down, subsidence. No, you don't have to. Really, you don't have to. But what happens is the lake bed fills up with detritus, stuff from the mountains, and as it gets heavy, it forces itself down. And at the bottom, it pushes out. That's what the layers are. Each layer is a part that got pushed out hundreds of thousands of years ago, tens of thousands of years ago, and on and on and on. Because if you look up, that's a big mountain. And if you look on that whole west side or north side of the lake, you'll see them. Isn't that interesting? You live here. This should be just so much fun. You say, God dang, Chris, I didn't know that. How many people knew that? I didn't know that until somebody told me. I said, Chris, go look. Anyway. And that's why it has what it has. It's also like when you look at Big Valley and Upper Lake down that way, it's all flat, right? Well, that's because there's a volcano here. Everybody knows that, right? Well, the volcano is old, done, all fired out. That's what created Mount Konocti. Mount Konocti is not a volcano, it's an ash and rock pile. The volcano is on the side. So anyway, but what you see with Big Valley is when volcanoes explode, they throw everything out. And that's what that is. It's a damn it. Can't think of the word now. Anyway.
You mean caldera?
Yes. See, you guys are smart. Oh my God, give them an A, give them an A. Give them all an A. So what you see out there, Big Valley and that, all the way down to Lower Lake is, or Upper Lake, that's all a caldera. Just an old blown out volcano. And then it filled up with lake. Yeah, see, Chris the scientist, who knew? So that's kind of the general kind of gist of geology. But there's another important one. There's Harbin Hot Springs, Wilbur Hot Springs, anybody else? Sarasota, Saratoga Springs,
That's all the geothermal stuff.
geothermal? Geothermal. Yeah, but that's an indicator of the unique environment that you live in. You're not gonna go very many places that have this many hot springs in such a close relative location. And guess what? It's in a ring. It's in a ring. Now, when you look at the ring from way up in space, you'll see it's a ring. But if you look below, when you look below and you say, what's down there? We stand on a 16,000 foot pile of shale. Now, what's shale to a geologist? Shale is a shock absorber. That's how come you don't get big earthquakes here. We don't sit on any major fault because they go around us. The earthquakes that we experience in Anderson Springs and Middletown area are little shock. You'll never get a big shaker down there. Can't happen. So don't be afraid. You're safe. Yeah, don't be afraid. Ain't nothing to be afraid of. Isn't that interesting? You sit on a 16,000 foot shock absorber. That's the geology. That's the interesting geology of Lake County that I really enjoy telling people. Because they think we just live in this place, right? Culture is knowing your place. Knowing your place. That don't mean your place in society. That means the place that you live and breathe and learn and have fun. Okay. Okay, we got geology for a while. Now let's talk about the biology. Remember I was telling you it's one of the most diverse places on earth? I got proof. You ever go over to Calusa and spend some time? Anybody? What's over there big time? Ducks. I'm glad you said that. Yeah, that too.
The Calusa campus. Yuba College has a campus there too.
Oh, I didn't know we were doing advertising while I was doing it. Oh, okay, that's fine. Let me know when you want to throw it in the next commercial. I didn't know that, thank you. But ducks, if you go over there, you see them flying back and forth across the valley. They do. If you go over there to that wildlife refuge. Just spend a Saturday afternoon. And you'll see ducks flying this way and ducks flying that way. They'll be flying upside down. They're just cruising. They're just having the time of their life. You ever see that here? You know what? They're old ducks. They're old ducks. That's why you don't see very many little ducks. You see, go down to that pier down here in Clear Lake, City Clear Lake, and I guarantee you, without even walking down there and seeing it for myself, that you're going to see gray feathered ducks. It's a retirement place for ducks. It is. People laugh, but it is. Because you don't see them flying in formation. You'll see one kind of limping along. Then you see another one, he's walking in his walker. I mean, that's Lake County ducks. It's not good. I'm not saying there's a put down, I'm just saying there's a reality. Go down and look. So, and the reason I'm telling you that is, guess what? What's Lake County also known for? Socioeconomically. Retirement. Isn't that interesting? I'm just making a connection.
Are these ducks high?
Yeah, really. I'm thinking. But just think, if it's kind of interesting. Lake County has the second per capita highest population of people over 65, and the only place that has a higher per capita is Orange County, Florida.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
I just had that equation with the ducks and I just couldn't get it out of my mind. I said, whoa, life is nature, nature is life, I don't know. But there's a place called Bear Mountain. It's in the Mendocino National Forest. And why do you think they call it Bear Mountain?
Because of the birthplace.
Well, not only that, but it also had one of the highest concentrations of grizzly bears, brown bears, and black bears on the North American continent. Hey. Isn't that something? You know, you think of grizzly bears in Montana and, you know, that kind of thing. It was right up there. On the highest concentration of grizzly bears in the world. You think, well, there should be more grizzly bears up there in Alaska. Nope. Bear Mountain. And that was because of the diversity. See, bears just can't, like, live because they wanna. They gotta eat. And a bear's gotta eat a lot of everything, right? That's why there were so many bears here. Then there were mountain lions, right? Mountain lions, my God, they were, cause what's a mountain lion's favorite food? If you wanna, if you wanna be eaten by a mountain lion, the best thing you can do is put on a deer outfit. Yeah. If you want to attract a bear, get a deer thing on. Anyway, so the reason I'm telling you that is it's reflective of how rich this environment was. Now remember, before the bass came, we had all kinds of fish. We had fish in Clear Lake that were found nowhere else on the planet. Yeah. That's something. About 10,000 years ago, you know how you drive to Ukiah? How many people drive to Ukiah? You know how you just get out of Blue Lakes and you go up that little hill there? Well, in about 10,000 years ago, there was a high mountain there actually, and it slumped off. And it closed off that end of the lake. The lake used to run through the Russian River. But now, after that event, it started running out through Cache Creek. Isn't that interesting? Biology, I love it. Geology, I love it. Oh, okay. I tell you what, we're gonna take a break, about 10, 15 minutes. So, you guys kind of got kind of an impression, right? Kind of, wow, this is kind of new to me, and gee, that was really interesting, and stuff like that, right? What are some emotions you've had so far?
Some things are disturbing.
Disturbing.
Despair.
Were you surprised by some of the? Oh,
I just cannot bear the way history is taught. This is like, I've always felt that, or, you know, for quite a while, but you're talking, and you've only been talking like an hour, it just makes me, like, I just hate it, and it's embarrassing, because I'm the majority, well, not majority anymore, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so it's embarrassing if this is what my group is doing, has done and does.
Thank you
for that. I
Thank you very much. You know, how you say, it isn't our fault.
Yeah.
It isn't anybody in this room's fault.
Yeah, right.
It is what it is, and the reality is that it's only through talking,
Right,
hearing, and communicating that we're gonna change that.
and being in the room together.
And being people in education. No, I just, okay. So let's get started. We've got a long way to go yet. Tough. We got a lot of road to hoe here, or row to hoe here. The battered amoeba of Clear Lake is still there. I'm gonna tell you a little story now. It's a tough one. Get ready. Put your seat belts on. About 1849, they discovered the gold. Remember? Remember after I got away and did my geology, biology thing? Okay, now we're gonna come back to Clear Lake. When 1849, they discovered gold, and literally overnight, tens of thousands of people came into California. Tens of thousands. But around 1830, when the settlers started moving in, a guy named Stone, a guy named Kelsey became partners. Back in those days, you know how they have the dot-com people, the technology boom and all of that, did you kind of follow how some people just became instant overnight millionaires, billionaires, that kind of thing? Well, in America, in the 1830s, 40s, and 50s, that was a cattle baron. That's how they got to be instant millionaires. Remember I was telling you how people in England and Europe, they never even got to eat meat? In America, you got to eat meat almost every day. Almost every day. People wouldn't write in the letters, Mom, I ate beef today, because if they sent that letter, their mother wouldn't believe them. Just think. Buffalo. But the cattle thing was huge. Guys would become overnight very rich by raising cattle. So Stone and Kelsey came to Lake County and settled in Big Valley over here to raise cattle and become rich. But they also entertained guests. I don't know if I said it earlier, but I'll say it again. Boggs Mountain, everybody knows where is that at? Okay. Boggs Mountain was named after a governor who came on a hunting expedition hosted by Mr. Stone and Mr. Kelsey. He fathered some children here. He was the governor of the state of Missouri. And then there's a guy named Benson. Benson was vice president under Abraham Lincoln. He also fathered some illegitimate children here and also some legitimate non-tribal children here. So we have a famous background, famous history here in Lake County. So anyway, so they would come to these hunting expeditions because remember, this is one of the richest environments in the world. You can come up here and out of your back door shoot wolves, mountain lions, bears. Some of the biggest grizzly bears in the world come out of Lake County. It does something? Who knew? Anyway, so these guys are doing this. At the same time, they don't have enough manpower. They don't have enough manpower to maintain their cattle holdings, do the hunting trips, provide entertainment to the people that are coming. So what they started doing was they took away the bows and the arrows of the local natives and they started saying, well, if you want to eat, you want to get some flour, you need to do some work. You need to take care of my cattle. You need to take care of my sheep. You need to take care of... So pretty soon, these people in Big Valley and up here in Elam and all of them, that's what happened, is they literally became slaves. And you say, oh, Chris, that can't be real. That didn't happen. Well, you were talking about something, and I just thought I'd mention it. In the 4th grade, what was your project for history?
Doing the missions.
Build a mission.
Yeah.
That is a required part under California state law for you to learn. Well, the real story behind missions is that they were all built by slave labor. We know this because when they did an archaeological dig of these missions in Mission San Diego, Mission San Jose, all of them, they found children's bones in there. And one of the interesting things that the archaeologists and anthropologists couldn't understand is, why do these little kids that are 6, 7 years old that died, they died of starvation or died of some sickness, but all of them had this unique quality. Their arm bones were bent. Their arm bones were bent because they were carrying bricks to build the missions. Isn't that interesting? Just think how hard a kid would have to work to make his bones bend, to grow that way. Yet we celebrate it by having children be required by California state law to build and celebrate the missions. But that's what we do. So anyway, I digress again. Yeah, I have to keep coming back, I'm sorry. So these guys are doing this, they're enslaving the tribal people, and the other people are doing this too. It's not like it was just John, or Mr. Kelsey and Mr. Stone that were doing that. Kelseyville, see, Kelseyville's the name. Um,
Here's that one, Uncle.
I wrote Julio up here, but actually his name was Huilo. It's an Indian name. That's his, but it was Americanized or Spanishized by making him Julio. He was the leader of Cabatan, which is Big Valley. Big Valley is out there by Lakeport. And he was the leader when these guys were doing all these things. His wife became a house slave. Now, a house slave in that house was not a slave, they were a victim. They were repeatedly raped, they were repeatedly beaten, all kinds of bad things happened to the women that were women and children that were house slaves for the Stone and Kelsey. Chris, how could they do that? Because they had the authority of a firearm. They had a gun. Now in 1830, what did they have? What kind of guns they have? Muzzle loaders, okay. So Huilo gets a word to his wife and says, you know what, if you wet that gunpowder, we can come in, get you. So about 1850, this was all going on, 1851, May. They go in and she wets the gunpowder. They come in, the Huilo and his lieutenants. Huilo was a captain, he was the leader of that band of Pomos. They went in and they killed Kelsey in the little adobe he was living in, and they tracked down and killed Stone along Kelsey Creek. They beat him to death with rocks. And so this is a big deal, you know, big deal. So everybody was kind of shocked and surprised that these Indians uprose and did this to these settlers. Well, if you were Pluth or Anderson, or what would you think?
A little nervous.
Yeah, you'd be a little nervous. Wait a minute, the Indians are uprising, right? So they said, well, no, we can't have this. We gotta get help. So they did. They formed a small group from around the lake, and they sent these riders to Napa. Napa was kind of like becoming the state capital, right? So they sent them down to Napa. Well, today, if I jump in my car, it takes, what, a couple hours? Drive down there? Well, back in those days, they didn't necessarily have a car. You know, they had a horse, but then they didn't necessarily have real roads either. But it took about 3 days to get down there. So they did. They sent them down. Well, in the meantime, Huilo, or Augustine, is kind of, or excuse me, Huilo is trying to figure out, wait a minute, I know I messed up. Because remember I was telling you all the stories they heard? For like 300 years, they've been hearing these stories about what happens to Indians that fight. And see, we come in the entire oral history, the entire oral tradition of Homo people, there's no thing about a war. We don't know what it is to fight with somebody else.
We don't even have a word for it.
We have one oral tradition where one tribe fought another tribe over Kelsey Creek. We know who won. But that's it. Yeah. And so, see, there isn't that history. We're not a warrior kind of people. Why would we be warriors? All we got to worry about is mountain lions and bears, right? We got everything to eat. We got ducks, duck eggs, old ducks. So he's kind of concerned because he's thinking, oh, wait a minute, these guys are going to come back for revenge. Boom, because they know the stories that they've done this. So he starts moving his people. They're thinking, and as these people are here, and so are the other Indians, and they're getting scared too because they've heard the stories, right? So they start migrating. They're going to get as far away from Big Valley as they can. So they're all heading over this way. You guys, I know you guys wrote what was there earlier. Robinson. Yeah. Well, Robinson, the captain for Robinson, is a guy named Augustine. He's my relative too. I'm chief guy all the way. When Augustine hears about it, he says, oh no, what are we gonna do? All these people are coming over here. So they gotta figure out a plan. Remember I said belonging, mastery, interdependence, and generosity? Everybody remember that? Because I know you wrote it down. I also wrote down these little age groups. So these people are coming. They're all coming over to Robinson. They're all trying to figure out, well, what are we going to do? Because they know they sent these guys down to go get people to get revenge down to Napa. In the meantime, the guys are riding down to Napa, and they're forming a posse down in Napa. And the great accomplishments of that endeavor was the creation of the California bear flag. That's where was it? Well, that's where and why we have the state of California flag. There's some right here in downtown Clear Lake was the inspiration for the California bear flag, based on the uprising by my great-great-grandpa. So Julio, or Huilo, he's doing it too. He's saying, hey, get over there and we'll figure something out. Just get over there. And everybody's moving. Everybody's panicking. They're all coming into the village down there by Robinson. In those days, now see here where I put Robinson? The lake actually extended where the town of Upper Lake is today. That used to be lake bed. Where the town of Upper Lake is today used to be lake bed. The lake extended all the way up into what they call today Bachelor Valley, up by Blue Lakes. In fact, you'll find tule beds in Scotts Valley. Yeah, everybody know where Scotts Valley is? Yeah, if you drill down, part of your drilling process is to clean out the old tules that come up in the drill. So they know the lake at some point in history was connected to the big lake, or to Scotts Creek. Anyway, I digress again. So Julio is moving over here, all the other Indians are moving over here. The settlers ran their people down to Napa. So they got like 4 days left. So Huilo and Augustine and other captains, not just them, they start trying to figure out what they're going to do. And they know from the stories that they've heard is that the military's coming and they're going to do bad things to all our people. They're going to just pick out the guy who did the dirty deed to Stone and Kelsey. They're going to get everybody because that's the way they know. So everybody's panicking. They're all trying to figure it out. So he says, so Huilo and Augustine and these captains come to a couple of decisions. They said, okay, we're gonna match up. We're gonna match up the kids. They can't fight. They don't know nothing about defending themselves or defending somebody else. We're gonna match them up with these old guys. And they said, we're going to give them a head start. We're going to send them out into the mountains ahead of the soldiers so that maybe out of some of them they'll survive. So they did. That's the first thing they did. They sent them out. And if you look at Mendocino National Forest, that's where they sent them out into. Remember what I said earlier.
That's big. I'm sorry.
Remember what I said earlier. What's out there?
Bears. A lot of bears.
A lot of bears. A lot of mountain lions, a lot of wolves. They knew that very few of those people were going to survive simply because getting out there they were exposed to mountain lions and all these bad things. But they knew that if they stayed, what would happen to them? They'd get tortured, murdered, raped, all this stuff, okay? So Huilo and Augustine are just, they're, along with the other captains, they're trying to figure this stuff out as they're running along. There's panic going on. I mean, 300 years of terror. And it's coming to you now. So they said, well, what are we going to do next? How can we figure this out? So what they decided was that this age group, about 25, 23, or excuse me, up to about 12, age 12, and they really didn't want the 65-year-old people hanging around. So they put them in about 45, and these people older than 45, they went out into the mountains. And then they know that soldiers really focused their attention on 13 and 14-year-old boys and girls. Even in war, even in modern warfare today. If you go to Bosnia, if you go to those places that they have these civil wars, that's what happens to young women. They get raped, they get murdered. It happens all over the world. It is not new. This isn't the first place it happened. But this is the first time it happened to these people. So they said, they kind of tried to figure something out. They said, well, what are you going to do with them? They don't know how to fight. They don't know how to defend themselves. So what they did on the second day, they said, well, we'll weave baskets. We'll make tule baskets, and we'll put them out in the tule beds. Now remember, I said it went all the way up to Upper Lake and all the way up in there. But also, out on, like if you travel on Highway 29 between Kelseyville and Lakeport on the flat part of the valley there, that almost to Highway 29 was really tule bed in those days. It was all tule bed. So they had plenty of places to hide the young boys and the girls. Oh, look. Oh, there we go. Anyway, they said, wow, this is really good. What are we going to, but we got to get going. And what are we famous for? Anybody? What are Pomo people world famous for?
Baskets.
Baskets.
No.
Hell yeah. We even make baskets watertight. You can cook in them, bathe in them. They have baskets that are that they use to store acorns and grain and all kinds of stuff. Oh, huge baskets. Just a kind of a cultural side note. I'm the youngest uncle. The oldest uncle in the family is the one who's responsible to build a baby basket. You know how the baby baskets are? That's a responsibility of the oldest uncle. They when you can't do any preparation. You got to do it when it happens, when the baby's born. The uncle goes into his house and starts building a basket. Usually takes 2-3 days. But that's his job. That's in his life. That's really his only job. He can do whatever he wants. Go hunting, fishing, being a playboy. I don't know. He can do whatever he wants. But his job as the oldest uncle is to make that baby basket possible. Anyway, but every Pomo knows how to weave. So they put all these people you were either gathering tules or you were making these big baskets, big enough to hold an individual. And we could do it. And so what they did was they sent this age group about 7 to about 17, 18. They sent them and they said, you don't need to go now, but when it's time to go, you're going to go get in that basket and you're going to stay there until somebody comes and gets you. Because if we hide enough of you out in the tules, some of you are going to survive. Some of you. So the kids were doing that. They were getting prepared, and they started putting the tule baskets out in the tule beds. And if you make a basket right, you can't see it. That's the whole point. If you make a basket, you can make it so that it gets camouflaged by its surrounding. So they were doing that. And then on the third day, back in those days, this is just before the Civil War, armies used to fight. Very famous. It's called breastworks. Why do they call it breastworks? You guys are thinking about something else. Don't think about something else. Breastworks are trenches dug enough to protect a man's breast from getting shot. Breastworks, trenches. In those days, that was the beginning of trench warfare. Highly unique in the world. And that was created because of the invention of the guns. Okay. So anyway, that's how they fought. So they knew that that's how this thing was going to come down. So they took some of the adults that weren't making baby baskets and they started digging breastworks on a place called Bloody Island.
What was it
So-
called then, Howard?
Pardon me?
What was it called then? Oh, okay.
Not Bloody Island yet? I don't know. No, I'm sure it had its name, but I don't recall hearing what it was, what it's ever been called before, prior. And so, where am I? Boom, boom, boom. Okay, we're talking about the breastworks, right? So these are all adults. This is about all that's left here, because all the old people and the little guys have taken off into the hills. They've taken some food, they've taken some provision, something to keep warm, but they're gone. The teens and young girls, young men, they know where they're supposed to go. All they're doing is helping. They're helping make sure everybody's got a basket, making sure that the breastworks are being dug out deep enough. So now is the fourth day. In the meantime, the people have gone down to Napa. They've formed a militia headed by a Colonel Lyons. That's why, where's that?
What was his name?
Lyons. I can't think of his first name because it really isn't valuable to me. But Colonel Lyons, he was one of the first commissioned officers in the state of California, in California history. He's one of the first. There's a lot of firsts here going on. So anyway, so they're coming back up. And the Indians know once they get to Clear Lake, they're goners, they're dead. So what happened was, on the fourth day, they didn't know what's left. What's left to take care of?
In that age group.
0 to 5.
Let them.
I'm just in.
Tell me again,
0 to 5.
babies and up to how old?
5.
5, 6 years old. Well, nobody really knew what to do. Because a mother can't fight while she's protecting her baby. A father can't fight while he's got a little kid running between his legs or, getting in the way. The military's still coming, and this is where it really gets sick. They built a boat, took an extra couple hours. They built a boat and they put it in at right down here by Cache Creek. And because they mounted a cannon on it, California history says that that's the first Navy in the state of California. California Bear flag, now we got the Navy. When you think about these things, they're really stupid, right? But that's people, believe me, history is valuable and important. And I don't say that casually often. So what happened was, when they entered the lake and put the boat, they started coming down here, and there was a bunch of them. The tribal people knew they only had a couple hours, and they still had to make a decision. They had to figure out, what are we going to do with our kids? Our babies, what are we going to do with them? Because for 300 years, they'd heard what about soldiers? They killed them, they tortured them. They heard stories about what they do to babies. How they use them for tobacco pouches, their skin. Yeah. Was it as disgusted as we are? Just think about hearing that and then it becoming reality 2 hours from now. That's the question, what do we do? So what they did was, they got together, they got all the adults and the babies together, and they said, what are we gonna do? And they said, and what was done is really powerful. The parents took their babies and they buried them in the mud in the lake. I gotta take a breath. I can't imagine. I have a son, he's 26, nice guy. I cannot imagine the power that it took for my great-great-grandmother to take her daughter and drown her. It's a powerful testament to the power of culture. If my great-grandparents hadn't have done that, I wouldn't be here. Just think, I wouldn't be here. I'll give you a minute. We're on overload right now. You know I gotta be a good boy. And I want to thank you for hearing my story. But I want you not to be sad, because that's a tough thing to hear. I mean, some of us are parents, and it just blows me out of the water when I hear that. Every time I get hot neck. And that's healing. That's my healing. It happens when I tell this story. Because it's true. Because it happened to my family. Because it happened in American and California history. When it was all said and done, see, they say that maybe a couple hundred people were killed there at Bloody Island. But the reality is more like a couple thousand. See, because who wrote history? Would it sound better, oh, we killed a couple 100 Indians at Bloody Island, rather than a couple thousand? They weren't done there. Colonel Lyons, they went through, and they went through those tule beds. And they found some of our kids. They tortured and killed them. Took them about 8 hours. When they finished there, when they finished at Bloody Island, they continued over to Redwood Valley. And they slaughtered more Indians. Because remember, we didn't have weapons. We didn't even have ways of defending ourselves. We had nothing. When they were done there, they wanted to get back home. So they followed the Russian River. And just south of Hopland, they just changed the name of the creek, actually. There's a place called Bloody Run Creek. They killed so many Indians that the blood was in the water, turned it red for days. Then they got back to Napa. See, we don't understand the culture until we kind of lived it. That's why I tell this story, is because it's an empowering thing for me to understand the implications of what my great-grandparents did for me to be standing here telling you a story. Without their forethought, without their sacrifice, I couldn't be here. And it's a powerful testament because remember I told you, you all come from that place, that tribal culture. That's the healing part of it. What happened to me happened to you. How we choose We can either live in sorrow and sadness, or we can celebrate the life that we have. But it's our culture, it's how our culture teaches us as to whether we support and help each other, or we look at each other and say, oh, that can't be right. Oh, that's just nothing. So what? That's history. Is it history? The feeling you have, is that history or is that real? That's what makes us live. That's what makes us live with each other. Those are the kinds of lessons we learn from that. How to take care of each other. Because in the end, there's bigger sacrifices in this world. Bigger sacrifices that our culture prepares us for. You know, I can't say enough how much I've healed. I've been telling this story for 20 years. And every time I tell it, I get that little heat. That heat, yeah, I get that because, man, it moves people. It moves them to remember about their own tribe, no matter where they're from. What do you call it? Like during the Spanish Inquisition, the Catholic Church raped, tortured, and murdered women for practicing healing. It's called the Inquisition. That happened there before it even happened here. See, so I'm not alone. My culture is not alone. And I want to leave you with the understanding that it's about celebrating our culture that leads us to understanding. Don't feel sorry for me. I'm good. I'm happy that I'm alive and I'm here. But understand, it's about reaching out to each other in a good way. That's what our culture's for. I thank you for listening to me. I appreciate the opportunity. And again, just relax for a few minutes, because what you heard is powerful. What you heard is sometimes painful. Just relax. I'll give you a couple minutes, and I'll beat you up one last time. No. It's all right. Because I don't do things perfect.
No.
I'm going to go take you through a process. Because you're hurt. You're feeling bad, feeling tough, kind of. And you got a piece of paper? Everybody get a piece of paper? Because I know you've been writing your feelings and emotions down. The first question I want you to answer is, what did you hear? That's important to you. What did you hear? Anybody want to share?
I heard that humans were not respected, and that there was superiority and inferiority presumptions. there was enormous separation from each other, that we weren't humans on the earth there, weren't acting with any presumption of oneness, of, yeah, like that.
Anybody else? What did you hear?
I think for me, the biggest picture is, until you feel it, you can't learn it.
Okay, great, great. So tell me, what did you see?
As in the story, as you told it.
You saw it graphically in your mind, going, okay, okay. Oh, good, I'm a storyteller. Anybody else? What did you see?
Pain.
Pain? Okay.
Were cruel. We were very cruel, and it wasn't thought out to other people's children. You know, there's children. Everybody's, you know, everybody's the same, and people didn't see that. They didn't.
And what's really powerful is it still happens today.
Yeah.
That's really the power of what I say, is that really it still happens today.
If I can add on to that, I think a lot of it has to do with fear, that a lot of people fear what they don't know, or what they can't understand. So I think a lot of the actions come from fear.
Okay. Anybody else?
Sacrifice.
Sacrifice? Yeah.
Courage.
Big words for small people. And the end one is, how did that make you feel?
Sick.
Sick?
Disgusted.
I'm sorry.
Disgusted.
Disgusted?
Ashamed.
Ashamed?
Angry, upset.
The reason that it's that way is because it's a horrible story. A tough one. You guys are tough. Tough crowd. But the reality of it is that one of the reasons that it's disgusting and terrible and all these things is because it's a common human experience. It's a common human experience. Literally hundreds of thousands of people came to America fleeing, running away from those kinds of atrocious activities in their own homes. It isn't new. It isn't unusual. What you just went through is called the Belmont process. I understand a lot of you are in working with young people and kids. This is a perfectly safe way to quickly help people get back to a normal place. It's called the Belmont process. And now that I've ruined your night and your weekend, you know, I just want to leave you with the good thought that, you know, we are human beings, and we're good people, and it is that idea of being good that's going to carry us forward, that's going to carry us to help each other rather than get in each other's way. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your attention.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
So, obviously, your next journal write is about this. We have journal rights in this class. And so I'm not gonna give you a specific question, but I just want you to process. Now you understand why I brought them here. And I'm thinking that Michelle didn't speak as much as I'd like, so maybe I'll drag her back. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yes.
I can make her come back, maybe.
Well,
Mr. Arndt.
I just would say right now too that this was written, we worked with the Attorney General's office for 3 years. and he taught you some of what goes on in 3 to 4 days. And so it doesn't do it as much justice for you to hear it in the amount of time he gave it to you. But what comes off of the back of something like this is us teaching about post-trauma. Do you do that with them, some of that in here?
This,
Any-
not this class so much, but in my social work.
What
What class
I
are we in?
usually ask this. I usually ask that before.
Teaching in a diverse society. It used to be
Okay.
called the multicultural
Okay,
class, and they
okay.
changed the name of it.
So, but the thing is that if you can understand, you know, we share what happened for us, and like he said, it happens with other people, but when you're dealing with people, you have to come to some common ground, or be able to understand why they do what they do, you know, and when you look at Indian people, you know, we get those stereotypes of drunken Indians, uneducated, and, you know, the whole 9 yards, and our people are coming out of trauma. That trauma, they're talking now, you hear scientists talking about what happens to cells, memories, in DNA changes and different things like that, and so, you know, we're walking among our people, picking up the pieces. And, you know, I always talk about tornadoes. You see back east when tornadoes happen, and you see people walking around in the rubbish and rubble, trying to find something left of theirs just to hold. And so that's what we do with our people, is we wade around in the rubbish and the rubble and find the diamonds and things that are still left that we can revive. And so this is just kind of a tip of the iceberg, and I thank my uncle because he's our storyteller. And I sat with him. That's traditional that we're together like that, because I don't want to leave him alone telling that. And not that I have much fun with it, but it's to understand when you're dealing with someone anywhere, even, you know, me as a minister or as an advocate, you want to be able to go, okay, you know what, you're going through this because you've been somewhere. And that somewhere, a lot of times with children especially, you know, a perpetrator has been a victim. So when you can say, you know what, you're doing this because you've been somewhere, and you can understand, okay, this had some trauma behind it, or this had whatever behind it, you get a better picture, and you can deal better with that person than looking at even somebody who perpetrates and go, you're an animal, or why do you do what you do? You know, that kind of thing. So, you know, this story helps with a lot of different aspects of what we do, and I'll be happy to come. Lori knows I'll come to her classes any day, but I thank you for listening with an open mind. A lot of times when I teach this, what I'm met with is anger. So to come into a classroom where everybody seemed really open and, you know, that really just participating in a really truthful way was nice, because a lot of times I get met with some serious anger. Maybe it's my teaching style. So thank you.
We have a good month under our belt of exploring this, and it was perfectly timed for us in this class. And I know for us as a community, it has brought us together even more closely. So thank you for coming. I'm looking forward to having you back. Chris Partida, you're always a blessing. And I've heard him tell the story, I don't know, 3 or 4 times now. And every time I hear it, I want to weep. So that is your journal, right? Not to go and weep, but I could just weep. And like she said, and he said, we have our own story with the Greeks and the Turks, and my grandmother's stories of what happened to her family. And so we all can, you know, relate on some level. And that's important, because it's through our relatedness that we build connection, and that's how we really build community. So I want you to just reflect. It's an open-ended reflection. Just think about what was shared here today. The people who are missing, maybe we can make the video available and they can watch it and then they can reflect. And I will see you next week. Thank you. Our cleanup crew is Sarah, Mackenzie, and is it Heidi? Did you want to say one more thing? And Heidi. I don't think I can put it on the portal. I will put it through my YouTube account.